Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and after an interesting set of matches yesterday, some more details came out regarding some of the issues that OpTic were having in this series. Of course, we saw Dashy having some sort of game issue during the Search and Destroy. OpTic were also having issues during the Control, but still closed out a pretty impressive 3-0 victory against the Minnesota Rokkr. And take your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Of course, Envoy was frying yesterday here on the stand of Search and Destroy, lining them up in that corner we talked about last night. Interestingly though, regarding standoff in general, there was a spot though there was quite a lot of discussion about on this on this like hop up wall. We saw MajorManiak on that wall, and I saw kind of watching things back after the fact that actually the very next round after he got a couple of kills in that spot and it caught OpTic off guard, you could see he was like trying to do it and get up into that spot again, accidentally mantled over the wall, and Envoy took him down. So kind of won the one round and then kind of cost them the next one. But yeah, there was a lot of discussion from Arcitys right here at Priestahh. How do you even get on that wall right now? And as Malog says, back in Black Ops 2, if you held down your stick as you mantled, you'd stand on top of the walls instead of going over them. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way in this game. It's very easy to mantle over these walls accidentally. However, of course, people like Parasite tend to know how to do this stuff, as he says, should I expose how to do it? And then he comes out with and says, fair playing field, good luck, have fun. So effectively, you look in this corner, this is one way of doing it. You look up at the sky at this particular leaf, you jam yourself in this corner, you press jump and you hop up on the wall and can actually mantle into this spot. A very good spot, to be honest. But obviously the alley to the right of you very much needs to be covered by a teammate so you don't just get shot in the side. So if you do have that control on defense, you can get to this spot outside Deli. Could be a good way to actually hold off a lot of the map. I mean, it's a great spot to hold B-bomb as well. OpTic tried to come down and plant. MajorManiak took them out. There's another slightly easier way that Jumpers puts right here where you can actually look down instead of up and can get on the spot in a similar way if you look at the right spot on the wall. And then can hop onto this wall. You maybe have to abuse your movement a little bit just to move to the left, and it might, I guess it's going to take some practice because we saw Maniac in the very next round. I think he was like trying to do it for a little bit and then fails it, jumps over the wall and gifts the other team a kill. So not ideal, all things considered, but a pretty cool spot nonetheless to think about. And this I thought was also pretty cool. I saw on Reddit yesterday talking about Warzone, the fact that there's now a Call of Duty League kind of banner thing, or at least tab or whatever here in the Warzone menus. That is pretty cool to see. It's the type of thing that's so easy to implement, to be honest, but yeah, it could well bring some people over from the Warzone side. And of course there's these tournaments coming up relatively soon, like these major Warzone, I don't forget what they're called, but there's like a $300,000 tourney coming up relatively soon with some of the top Warzone players. I think as some people are also talking about in this thread, how crazy would it be to see like a Nick Merckx or someone else, or an Aiden or a Rated or something, get into a lobby with like the FaZe guys? Because when this game first came out, or at least like last year sometime, when Cold War maybe first came out in the pros, maybe it was during the off season, I can't really remember, but a lot of the FaZe guys were playing and they were like, I'm pretty sure they set some of the world records on some of these Warzone games. They're playing with Vicstar a fair bit. Of course now they're playing the Pro League, but how crazy would it be in the viewership for those games if it was like some of the Warzone pros playing up against some of the actual COD pros in a Warzone game? Maybe something I'm sure we'll have to see during the off season or something. I mean, of course these Warzone tournaments are going to be pretty interesting, a good way to potentially bring new players into the scene, even though it's not necessarily my favourite thing to watch. This is what I love to watch. Competitive Call of Duty here on Raid, it doesn't get too much better than this. But yeah, OpTic win this map, of course, in a pretty impressive fashion at 3-0 yesterday. We'll talk about what exactly might be going wrong for Minnesota here in a couple of minutes, but I did want to touch on this OpTic team and the success they had on this map. Of course, Envoy had a phenomenal series all around, popping pieces all over the map. He did mention something very interesting though on the flank. Of course, he does explain to some degree the issues Dashy was having. We talked about it yesterday, actually, the fact that, Dashy, as he says right here, couldn't get out of my start screen in the S&D. It was super weird, so they obviously had to reset it and replay from a 4-2 advantage for OpTic. They go on to close that out pretty emphatically in the end 6-2. But also in the control, they were having issues as well. I was watching the OpTic pre-show last night, and Hex was saying that they'd installed these new internet lines for the OpTic guys, and that was going to, step up them in the right direction in terms of, the internet capacity they have at the Hex quarters. Now, clearly there's some issues been going on with that early on, because as Envoy points out in this map right here, and I'm pretty sure it was in the second round, or maybe in the first round, you guys will see in the clip that is played in just a couple of seconds, but they actually pretty much freeze for a fair few seconds. All of them just don't move at all. They have this in a scrim as well that Envoy explains that they managed to deal with and get over the issue, and they came back to life in the end. And of course, Minnesota Rokkr didn't know that they'd all frozen, but still, as Envoy says, pretty impressive stuff. The fact that they freeze for a good few seconds here in the control round, and they still close that in pretty impressive fashion. I'm pretty sure Formal gets picked as well while he's standing. Still, I guess the Rokkr guys were kind of confused as to why that was the case.
And for viewers, like, what happened here with him at the beginning of this round?
So I know there's like a glitch going around that you get stuck on your start screen, or you get stuck in like the chat, and where you can't like move at all, and the start screen's on your thing, and that's what happened to him. and basically we just couldn't play this whole round because he was camped in spawn.
Why is it
did
always
they,
happening? It's always happening to Bruce, bro. I
Yeah,
swear
Bruce
it
is
always
getting
is.
some- bro.
I don't know.
Poor
It's
guy,
actually
dude.
crazy too because I mean that happened to us, and then also in the control. I don't know if anyone noticed, but we got a new internet line installed here, and we keep getting connection interrupted for like 10-15 seconds. So we have to like figure out how to fix that. But it happened in the control in the first round where they had 2 ticks at B and they already had gotten A, and we still won the round. So some serious adversity, and like we still won the round. I was kind of
Yeah.
mind blown.
What
You guys might
happened
be
to
getting
the
some packet loss.
What happened to the pause feature? They want to do that here? No pause feature? I thought
Yeah,
that was
we
a
were.
thing.
Yeah, we were kind of mind blown about that too.
Yeah, I
I'm-
thought this would be
I'm
a perfect time for the
confused.
pod. Like
Before this,
what is
before
this?
this, we all froze. Before this, we all froze for 10 seconds.
You froze?
Yeah, like we got connection interrupted because our internet's right now.
Oh, what
So
the
yo, watch.
fuck?
I'm number 3. Look, I'm frozen.
Oh yeah, you're right. What the? I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, and they still didn't even get the
Oh,
point.
I would have been losing.
Look, Matt didn't
full.
even shoot
I
back.
would have been losing full, bro. What the?
Yeah, no idea. That's actually wild.
That's,
It happened
that's
to us
crazy.
in a scrim
Well-
earlier, and we just talked about it. Like, you know, if it happens in the match, like, no one lose full because we'll be back in 10 seconds.
How the? And Standy went rogue.
They went rogue because they had 2 guys in kitchen. They just had a 3rd guy in the point, and 1 guy in kitchen just kind of like.
I mean,
If you think someone's coming from middle, just watch her cross. And they have everything.
So Envoy, of course, with a phenomenal series, and FaZe looked not exactly shaky up against the Paris Legion. They won that series 3-1, but look, at the end of the day, it wasn't the most convincing series in the world for the FaZe guys. They lost to Standoff, Search and Destroy pretty emphatically, and that's what you got to think right now. If you're OpTic, this actually might work out to your favor. We discussed the whole idea that, okay, with Checkmate, Search and Destroy leaving the rotation, what does that mean for FaZe and OpTic? Those were the 2 best teams at Checkmate, Search and Destroy. OpTic yesterday looked great on Standoff, and FaZe did not look good at Standoff at all, so maybe there's something to be said about that. If OpTic can get Standoff into this series on when they play them on Sunday, that might actually be great for OpTic, in at least in theory. In these early parts when the maps only first started to be played, certain teams will come out ahead and certain teams certainly will not. But Envoy had a great series here yesterday, 2.18 in the control to finish off the job, 1.35 overall KD. And well, if the OpTic guys can perform like that against FaZe on Sunday, it's honestly going to be a crazy series, I think, because they're playing so much better clearly now than they were when, well, a few weeks ago where they got kind of demolished, and there was the whole server drama that, well, still kind of sits with us to some degree. Let's talk about the Minnesota Rokkr, though, because I wanted to touch on this. Accuracy tweets this out a couple of days ago, talking about, you know, withering the storm. Is Accuracy right now a difficult time, of course, going down to the challenger side? But their 3-0 defeat yesterday was, I mean, I don't want to exactly say it's completely unexpected, but I thought they'd take at least 1 map. I thought that OpTic should be kind of scared about going to a Game 5. I felt that OpTic would find a way to close it out 3-1 or something like that. Wasn't really expecting them to win 3-0 in the pretty dominant fashion that they did, all things considered. Especially this Rokkr team, clearly there's a lot of talent on this squad, and you do have to wonder really whether Accuracy was a key component in keeping this team together, because, you know, we kind of saw that Standy was making some questionable plays at times, not necessarily sure that Maniac brings the same leadership voice that Accuracy does, and in theory, okay, you bring Maniac in for higher slaying power, and you didn't necessarily get that as well. And the interesting statistic, really, especially when we look at their hardpoint now, is I'm pretty sure statistically they are the worst, if not one of the worst, hardpoint teams in the entire game. As Priestahh says, played terrible that series, GG's to OpTic. They have a massive series against Paris later today, effectively a must-win for the Minnesota Rokkr guys, right, if they want any chance of doing something in this group, because their group is not easy by any means. They've already lost to OpTic, they've got Thieves in there, they've got FaZe in there yet to play, then of course they've got Seattle and they've got Paris Legion, right, so you really need to win one of the series against the top 3 teams in the group in theory, and then it will beat Paris and beat Seattle Surge, of course, and they play the Paris series later today. But these are the statistics for the Minnesota Rokkr so far this season. The bottom left is where it gets kind of interesting. So Search and Destroy, in theory, this team's strongest mode. They're 13-15, and in hardpoint, they're 11-23. Like, this is actually tragic. I'm pretty sure it's worse than any other team in the league statistically. I mean, you're winning, what is that, 11 out of 34, so less than a third of your hardpoints you actually win. That's pretty tragic. Moscow, they're 1-5 on Garrison, they're 2-6 on. I mean, yeah, not pretty all across the board for the guys on the Rokkr, and that's clearly a massive issue for them, right? Because hardpoint, people talk about Search and Destroy being the most important game modes. I would argue that hardpoint is probably the most important, because the first map in the series sets the tone so much, and if you're really good at hardpoint, you can win series consistently 3-1. You don't even have to go to a Game 5, so that's why I think hardpoint is just so crucial, and if you're bad at hardpoint, that really does put you in a difficult spot, and Rokkr are not exactly safe in terms of a qualification for champs. They're down there, I'm pretty sure, in 7th right now. They have a fair few points, no doubt about it, like 140, but still, that's not going to to be enough to qualify for champs. They're going to need to win some more series. Certainly, the other teams down below them are certainly coming for blood. And yeah, they're sitting there right now just above the FeLo Mutineers that are looking better. You've got other teams down there like London looking good. I mean, of course, Paris looks pretty good the other day. Los Angeles Grillers, who knows what they could do. Seattle Surge have the players on their team to make something happen. Not necessarily sure it will happen. But yeah, if you're Rokkr, you need to kind of turn things around relatively quickly. And yes, they did get very close to winning the game number 1. But still, at one point, they were down like 190 to 60 on that Moscow hardpoint. So not exactly the ideal start for those guys. This I thought was pretty funny between Arcitys and, well, Simp and aBeZy yesterday. We always see this discussion, and as he says, imagine being able to spawn in with the 74U every day. We got Beef that says Simp hashtag nerf 74U, and then aBeZy says it the other way around. Imagine being able to spawn in with the Krig every day, and Arcitys is like, get a grip. So yeah, who knows exactly who this, well, new meta benefits in a sense. We haven't seen any FFARs come out yet, unfortunately for Dashy. I thought that may indeed have been the case last night, but maybe not on the maps that necessarily favour that weapon too much. If they go back to an Express Search and Destroy or a Raid hardpoint or something like that, maybe we'll see some more FFARs come out into action. But right now, the Krig is just so good that it might not even be worth using the FFAR, to be honest, from certain perspectives. Let's talk about the series then that are going on today. The marquee match is Los Angeles Grillers versus the Subliners. The Seam is the, you know, whatever they call it, the marquee match play or whatever, that they'll probably mention 50 million times throughout the stream. But these are the 3 games. As I mentioned, Rokkr versus Paris Legion is first up. Legion looked pretty good against FaZe. Rokkr did not look good against OpTic's yesterday. So I think this actually could be a very interesting series. And if Rokkr lose this one, you've got to be asking questions immediately about this team, right? Because if they just made a change for MajorManiak coming in for accuracy, and then you're like, all right, is this actually going to help us out for the rest of the season? Can we potentially make additional change? It's somewhat tough to say. The second series I'm really looking forward to, Thieves versus Surge, because you've got this new Surge lineup with Classic coming in. Then this Thieves squad is, well, back to its old form, right, with TJ now in instead of Huke. Is that going to actually put them back to the level they were before, right? Because they make this kind of strange change before the major for stage 3, where they bring in Huke instead of TJ. I mean, it's not really a strange change. It makes perfect sense. But at the end of the day, that they didn't decide to stick with their roster that was so good that just beat OpTic a couple of days prior to bringing in Huke. Now you're back to that old team. Will it rekindle the form that they were seeing a couple of weeks ago? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Definitely a good start really against Surge if Thieves are trying to get back to form. And then the final series, Subliners versus Grillers. All these groups are pretty crazy right now, but Group B especially is interesting because Mutineers, of course, beat Toronto Ultra just a couple of days ago. So Subliners are in a great position here to, like, okay, if they can beat LAG, if they can go through their group, realistically all they need to do is beat Toronto, and that they'll be guaranteed the first seed in the group in effect, because Toronto have already lost if they can close out all their other series. Not going to be easy to do so by any means. A lot of talented teams in that pool. Dallas Empire, you've got, of course, London Royal Ravens, both looking good yesterday. But for both of these teams, it's very important to win this series. Subliners need to get off to a hot start, and the Los Angeles Grillers, I mean, for the teams in the bottom 4, every series is kind of a must win, to be honest, to try and get yourself a good seeding for the major, to get some good points, to actually, well, find yourself in a competitive position for the World Championship. But intriguing your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm that you enjoy this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.